video is going to be all the books that I want to read in 2024. If you didn't see my previous Okay, so hey there guys, today's video is going to be all the books that I want to read in 2024. If you didn't see my if you didn't see my previous video, because apparently English is hard, then go check out all the books that I read in 2023 before you watch this video, or if you're just interested in what I'm currently reading and what's on my reading list for 2024, then continue watching this video. So if you guys want to see my full reading list, I would suggest that you sign up for the app called Goodreads, because this is where I'm going to be listing all of the books I want to read, all the books I've finished, and my progress on the book that I'm currently reading. And I don't know why I didn't do this before, but honestly, Goodreads makes it so easy to track the books that you're reading. So I have like a reading challenge set up for myself on Goodreads, and I just goaled myself to read 20 books this year so far. I've already finished 3 books in January, and it's only the 11th. And the book series I am still reading and I'm going to be reading for the rest of this month is the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. And I've currently read or have read the first 4 books so far. So I read Throne of Glass, then I read Crown of Midnight, and then I read Heir of Fire. I did read Assassin's Blade in 2023 because that was the last book that I finished in 2023, and I wanted to make sure that I finished it in 2023 so I could just read the entire Throne of Glass series all through January and some of February. It depends on what book I get up to in January. If I blast through all 7 books before the last book, before February, then I'm just going to be reading the last book in February for like the first couple of weeks, because that book is long. So there was something else so if you want to follow me on Goodreads, I believe it's just Caitlin. I don't even know what my username is. It doesn't really say, even after I'm going to my profile. It just says Caitlin. I don't know where my username is. Where is my username? I'll probably just add it on Instagram later. If you follow me on Instagram, which is CBW819, I'll just put it in an attachment sharing to my stories where you can follow me on Goodreads if you would like to. So let's talk about the Throne of Glass series really quick, because again, that is what I'm reading currently, and I do want to touch on it for a little bit. I'm not going to go through like every single book and my thoughts on them. I'm just going to give you like a overview of what I've thought so far, because if I say any more, it's just going to be so spoilerish, and I'm not going to like rate every book. I'm not going to come back and talk about this series on YouTube until I have finished the entire series, and then I will come back and do a whole get ready with me and talk about the whole series and my thoughts on it. I'm still going to try and not be spoilery, but there might be some spoilers in that video, but we're just going to start off by talking about the 3 books that I have read so far, because I have finished these books in 2024 and they were my goal to read this whole series. So far, my only reading goal for 2024 was to read the Throne of Glass series, because my mom gifted it to me for Christmas. And I started reading it like 2 days after Christmas, because during Christmas and the couple of days after that, I was still finishing the book Dead Romantics. That book took me a little bit longer because, the holidays were going on and I was still working like the last couple of days before Christmas. So I didn't finish that book as fast as I thought I was going to, but honestly, it's fine because I finished it like the day after Christmas. And then I started reading Assassin's Blade like the day after I finished the Dead Romantics. So I still finished the Assassin's Blade in 2023. I was so happy that I finished that before I started to read the rest of the series, because I really just wanted to read that so then I could concentrate on all the rest of the books in 2024. So obviously the next book I read after that was Throne of Glass, which is the title book in the series. And then the next book is Crown of Midnight, and I think that this has been my favorite so far. I loved this book, so far this has been my absolute favorite. I also really loved Throne of Glass as well. I know some people say because she was super young when she wrote this book that it's like considered her worst book, but honestly, this book is spectacular. I am so in love with this series so far, and my experience so far is that these have actually been my two favorites. But I would have to say Crown of Midnight is my tip-top favorite so far. And then the fourth book in the series is Heir of Fire. I just finished this one, I believe, on Tuesday night, and I really liked it still. I think I still like Crown of Midnight a little bit more. I'm not going to pick these up again, so we're just going to put these down and we're going to start getting ready. But I'm going to talk about the overview of Throne of Glass and like the basics on what it's about, but I'm going to be as non-spoilery as possible. So when I was asking for a book series for Christmas, I told my mom I either wanted Throne of Glass or the ACOTAR series. Now, we will get into the ACOTAR series in like a few minutes, but I still want to talk about Throne of Glass first. So, basically, first off, I wanted to say that I am so happy that I decided to start with, the prequel, Assassin's Blade, because honestly, I feel like if you start reading Throne of Glass first, and I know a lot of people recommend reading Throne of Glass first. Did I say reading? Reading Throne of Glass first, and then going to Assassin's Blade, I believe, after Crown of Midnight, and then reading Heir of Fire after that. Like, you still read Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight in the same order, but there is some debate on what order you should read them in for the first half of the series, and there's also a debate about the second half of the series that I'll get into in a minute, because obviously I'm going to read the entirety of the series. I'm hoping to be finished with all of them, like, probably halfway through February, which would honestly be crazy for me, because the last book is almost 1,000 pages. But I've read, like, 2,500 pages in the past, like, 2 weeks, which is, like, crazy for me, because because the series is long. It's not like... Basically, in 2024, I committed myself to reading 3 series, and I will talk about them. But last year, the only series I decided to read, well, besides the Unhoneymooners, but I wouldn't even consider that a series because there's only 2 books. But the only other series I decided to read in 2023 was Fourth Wing. But honestly, those were the only 2 fantasy books I really read. I mean, some of the other books that I read were like fantasy romance or like fantasy premises, because obviously none of these things would happen, so they're still considered fantasy, but I'm talking about like dragon, magic, castle, medieval times stuff. The only one I read was Fourth Wing because those were only 2 books, and I knew I wanted to read those first and then commit myself to reading 2 of Sarah J. Maas's series in 2024. So basically, Assassin's Blade like really does set up a lot of the story that goes on in Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight. When you get to Heir of Fire, you pretty much know everything there is to possibly know about the main characters, Zelena or Selena. I always forget how to say her name. But she is the main character, and the first book is basically all about her, what? Okay, I don't care. Oh, the tales of, I know my friend is telling me that she's home. I really don't care. I'm not planning to see her anytime soon, so. Anyway, so it's just like these things throw me off so much when I'm filming. I like kind of hate it. Just drives me crazy. So I'm going to be using my Glaminatrix Cosmetics palettes today, and I really want to use the Rich Romantic because I actually haven't really used this palette this year yet. I did use the Nearly Natural palette actually a couple days ago, but I want to jump back into this one because I haven't used it this month yet. So I'm just going to go into Admire first because I want to do like a pinky look today. That's why I'm wearing a pink shirt. So I'm just really glad that that was the way that I decided to start this series because honestly, after I finished Crown of Midnight, because I wouldn't really know if Assassin's Blade was super spoilery until I would have finished Crown of Midnight because, again, that's the way that people recommend to read them is to read Assassin's Blade afterwards. And also that's the order that Sarah J. Maas did release the books initially, as that she released Throne of Glass and then Crown of Midnight and then Assassin's Blade and then Heir of Fire. But I was like, I read several Reddit posts on the order that people recommend to read them in. And there was just this one comment that I was like, I feel like that this is what I should do, is that basically they said, if you start with Throne of Glass first, you're going to be pretty confused about like what is actually going on. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't read in the way that you decide to read the series in. Read it in whatever way you think is best for your reading style and the way that you read a series. I would just weigh, other people's opinions before you decide. But I just really am glad that I decided to read Assassin's Blade first because she does refer to a lot of things that happen in Assassin's Blade in Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight. Like, she flashes back a lot with Selena and, the tales that take place in Assassin's Blade. So I'm just really happy I decided to read that first. And then Throne of Glass is basically about a castle that's made out of glass, and he has a glass throne. That's why it's called Throne of Glass. And basically, Selena is sent to his kingdom after actually being betrayed in Assassin's Blade, and then she ends up being freed to take her place as the king's slave to compete as a assassin's champion in this like bullshit tournament, honestly. And I don't know if I remember actually talking about this in another video. Maybe I didn't. I'm not really sure. So that's basically what Throne of Glass is about. And I'm if I say anything else, I'm really just gonna spoil a lot. But basically, the king is a tyrant. He basically doesn't let anybody live unless he allows it. Like, you're only really alive if the king finds some use for you. And if you're not royalty or like a soldier or a general for him, then he will enslave you pretty much. And the king has a heir. He has two sons, and the first son's name is Dorian, and then the second son, the youngest son, is Holland. And Dorian is pretty much the complete opposite of his father. He wants peace in the kingdom. He wants people to not live in fear of the king. And that's basically what the second book is about, because I technically consider Throne of Glass the second book. And then the third book really reveals a lot about magic, about certain characters developing magic, because basically in Throne of Glass you learn that the kingdom is basically stripped of magic. Nobody can hone magic pretty much, but then you find out in Crown of Midnight that some people can. But then in Crown of Midnight, like, a lot of, things develop. And, Crown of Midnight really tore at my soul because there was a couple parts that I actually did legitimately cry in, because there was just such a heartbreaking part in like a third or halfway into the book, basically, of Selena feeling betrayed by a certain character, and she was in love with this man. And basically the reason why I cried is because they can never love each other again the way that they did, because a certain character dies because of the male character that kind of betrays her. So it was just really, really sad. But in Crown of Midnight, there's a lot of development about like what the king is actually doing. Is he actually using magic for just his own personal gain? Because again, was a spell that was cast, so magic was basically hindered if you even possess magic, which some people do. And we learn more and more about Selena in Heir of Fire, and basically Chol, which is the captain for the king. Like, Chol is a very interesting character because he, serves Dorian because he thinks that Dorian is the true king. He honestly hates the king, but the king is so manipulative because he can basically convince Chol to do anything for him. I'm just trying to see what lid shade that I want. But, like, he would never really tell Chol. I hope that's how you say his name. If I'm saying it wrong, I'm sorry. I just don't feel like looking it up right now. But basically, he is just making everybody's life a living hell, the king. And Chol is a very torn character because he wants to serve Dorian because he thinks that he's the true king. But also, like, he has to serve the king and continue to serve him, because if he doesn't, then obviously he'll be killed or banished or exiled, whatever. So that's why he has to continue serving him. So I think I'm going to use this shade Captivating because this shade is so stunning. And I just want like a frosty pink today. Yeah, look at that. That's so pretty. So his character development like really comes along in like Crown of Midnight and Heir of Fire. And honestly, there's so much material in this book because the first real battle doesn't even happen until Heir of Fire. And it's not until like the third, like literally probably 400 or so pages into the book. There's just like so much information, and she's such an incredible writer, and she is so good at balancing the characters' stories that you're not really confused. But also, this is not a smutty romance fantasy series. It's actually very dark at some points. There's some gory parts. Like, it's a lot more bloody and gory than you would think. Not like too extreme where it's like sick to my stomach, but there are some parts that I'm like, literally my jaw is dropping because it's like, oh shit, like that's really bad. And also in Throne of Glass, there is like they think it's like a champion that is slowly murdering the champions that are in the tournament, and they keep on getting killed like one by one. And the way that they're murdered is really, really brutal, honestly. Like, it's pretty graphic. But again, it's nothing I can't handle, but I'm just saying, like, if you're sensitive to that type of stuff, maybe just read some reviews or see if you could handle that type of goriness. Sorry, there's like hiccup everywhere. Before you read it. So far I am enjoying the series so much. I finished Heir of Fire on Tuesday night. It was like a really stormy, rainy day, and I just finished the book like by mid-afternoon. Like I finished it by like 5 p.m. And then I just went right into reading Queen of Shadows right after that. So right now I am currently on the 5th book, which is Queen of Shadows, which is crazy to me. Like, I can't believe how fast I'm actually reading this series, because then I only have 3 more books after this. So this is like officially like more than halfway through, and I'm on page 265. And I just started reading this on Tuesday, and it's only Thursday right now. So I'm hoping to be halfway, well, not even halfway through, like more than halfway through by tomorrow night, or like by Saturday. And then after that, I'm just going to jump right into Empire of Storms. Empire of Storms is a little bit longer. Like after, whatchamacallit, Crown of Midnight, the books keep on getting longer. Because Crown of Midnight was like 400 pages, so was Throne of Glass, and so was Heir of Fire. I mean, no. Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight were like 400 pages, and Assassin's Blade. But Heir of Fire is like 560 something pages, and then Empire of Storms is like 100 pages longer than that. So, I don't know why I decided to use my brushes in reverse today, but here we are. It has the same effect, so it doesn't really matter. I'm just using one shade from the Nearly Natural palette, which is called Untouched. I can't believe I've been talking about this series for already 20 minutes. But basically, I'm really enjoying it. And the other debate is that after I finish Queen of Shadows, which I feel like after I finish this book, this is probably going to be my favorite one so far, because it's considered a lot of people's favorite one out of the series. And also it won like a Goodreads award back in like 2016 or something. Goodreads has been around for quite a while. I can't believe I just got it like a few days ago so I could keep track of everything that I'm reading. But there is a debate on the way to read, whatchamacallit, Tower of Dawn and Empire of Storms. Since a lot of people say, I don't even remember which one went in which palette, but it doesn't really matter. A lot of people say to read Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn in tandem together. And at first, when I saw that people are like, yeah, you read them at the same time, I'm like, how the heck am I going to do that? Like, am I going to alternate between each chapter and read them? But then there's like entire reading guides like all over the internet on how to read these books in tandem. But honestly, I think I've been debating on whether or not I'm going to do that. I mean, I think it would be really cool. But at the same time, I think I'm just going to read them singularly and just read Empire of Storms and then Tower of Dawn and then Kingdom of Ash, obviously. There's also a debate on whether or not you can read Tower of Dawn before Empire of Storms. Like, some people say you can do that, but just don't read the epilogue of Tower of Dawn, because then that spoils a lot in Empire of Storms. But also, if you read Tower of Dawn first, it spoils a lot that happens in Empire of Storms. So, and if you don't read Empire of Storms first, you're not really going to know what's going on in Tower of Dawn, even though they do take place at the same time. So the two ways they recommend reading them is either reading just Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn in the order that they were released in the order that you're supposed to read them in, or just read them together. And the whole reading guide is basically not like reading both books at the same time. I mean, the way that they break it down is basically like how many chapters of each book you should read before you move on to the next one. So like this reading guide says read chapters 1 through 5 of Empire of Storms and then read Tower of Dawn chapter 1 and then etc., and tells you the order that you should read them in. But honestly, like, I'm not gonna do that because if I do end up getting to these books, which I'm probably most likely going to get to them by next week, it's gonna be a lot for me to alternate them. And also, like, I need to read a series in its entirety first off. I can't just like put down like the 5th book like after this and then like read another book that I've been wanting to read. I have to read the entire thing because I feel like that's the way that I get the best experience out of reading a series. Like I have to just read them all at once in a row. But also, like, if I decided to tandem read Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn, then I would have to bring both of them to work with me because that's literally like the only other place that I would bring them like outside of the house. But also, like, I don't want to stop and like keep on looking at the guide and be like, oh, what chapter do I read now? Can I go back to this book or this book? I just feel like it's going to be less stressful for me. The only reason why people say that you should tandem read them is because they say that Tower of Dawn can get a little bit boring. I loved Assassin's Blade, though. I don't think Assassin's Blade was boring, really. Like, it was a little bit slow in the beginning, but after it picks up, it's actually really good. And again, it adds a lot of vital information to the main character. But I just decided I'm going to just read Empire of Storms and then Tower of Dawn and then commit to Kingdom of Ash for most of the first half of February. So yeah, I think I'm going to be done with Tower of Dawn by the end of January, which is crazy to me. But yeah, I'm not going to come back and say my reading wrap up for January because it's only going to be Throne of Glass. So I'm going to do a full get ready with me halfway through the February whenever I finish Kingdom of Ash, and then I will just talk about the series in its entirety, and then we'll talk about right now what I'm going to be reading after I finish Throne of Glass. I just want to grab my spine. Okay, so I just want to give a quick rating to these. Like, again, I rate the series so far 5 out of 5. Like, I'm enjoying every minute of it. But if I had to pick, like, what my ranking would be, I would say Assassin's Blade is probably on the bottom, but that's only because it's the prequel. Like, it's still an incredible book, but obviously it's probably going to be my least favorite because I'm sure so much more happens in this series that I feel like I've barely cracked the surface. So in the order, like I said, Crown of Midnight has been my absolute favorite so far. I love this book. I feel like this book like never lost its momentum of just captivating me, and I feel like that's why I read this book so quickly. It was just such an incredible experience. I really loved this one so far. And then number 2 for me would have to be Throne of Glass. I really did enjoy this book a lot. And again, I feel like when the books are a little bit shorter, it doesn't lose its momentum of being like completely captivating and exciting. And I love this book. I think she did an incredible job on setting up a lot of the story in that book. And then I would say Heir of Fire. I still really loved this book. It was great. The only thing I would say is that I kind of got a little bit bored at the parts that she was talking about the witches in this book, because like throughout the chapters it switches between Selena and her situation, and then it switches between like Chol and the prince, and then it goes to like the witches and what they're planning to do with the humans and all of that shit. And I know that that's essential to this story. I was just like, oh, another witch part. Like, I was kind of like not looking forward to it because I kind of didn't like take in the information that much. But I find that already in Queen of Shadows, that the parts that she talks about the witches in this book is already a lot more interesting to me than in Heir of Fire, because I feel like in this book there's so much that is happening already. I definitely think this is probably going to be my favorite once I finish it. And again, that's considered like a Goodreads favorite. So those are my thoughts so far. I'm absolutely loving every minute of it, though there's not like anything that makes me like dread reading it. I just like can't stop reading it. I love it. So now we're going to talk about all the other books that I want to read, because then obviously after I finish Queen of Shadows, I'm just going to move on to the last 3 books, and we'll see where I'm at the beginning of February. So the next so after I was going to finish, or am going to finish, Throne of Glass, I wasn't sure if I was going to move directly on to another series by Sarah J. Maas, or if I was going to read some standalone books, because there are a few standalone books on my list that I would like to read. Hold on one second. Okay, so I just wanted to pop in really quick, make this like a minute long because this clip is already so long. I just want to correct myself about the ACOTAR series, that the 6th book is not coming out January 30th of this month. It's the 3rd book in her Crescent City series that's coming out January 30th. I don't know why I thought it was another ACOTAR book, but it is Crescent City. And I do have those books on my list, but I don't know when I'm going to be able to get to them, because they're actually really long books, and I already purchased the ACOTAR series because I'm on Kingdom of Ash now. I just wanted to give you guys an update on which book I'm actually on in the Throne of Glass series. I'm already on the last one. So I am going to read the ACOTAR series after that. I did the tandem read of Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn, and I loved it. So yeah, I just wanted to correct myself before I get into anything else about reading the ACOTAR series. So now let's get into it. What I've decided is that I think I am going to read Sarah J. Maas's ACOTAR series after I finish Throne of Glass, for a few reasons. Not just because, like, I've been wanting to read this series since last year, but again, I didn't want to commit to something that was so long until I read some of the standalone books that I wanted to read. But I'm going to commit to reading ACOTAR after I finish Throne of Glass, because one, the 6th book in the ACOTAR series actually comes out at the end of January. And that's the only reason why I wish I would have read the ACOTAR series first. And also, people do say that if you read the ACOTAR series first, it's better to start with Sarah J. Maas's reading, is that people recommend reading the ACOTAR series first before Throne of Glass. And I didn't even know that the 6th book was coming out until like December, when I was watching like Batty Bean's wrap-up video for November. She's like, the new book is coming out in January and I can't wait. And then I looked at when it was coming out, and it comes out January 30th. So that really was the main reason why I wanted to read the ACOTAR series. But also, I do want to order it before my Prime trial is up, because then I get the free shipping. And it's not going to be cheaper anywhere else than buying it on Amazon. So that's really, like, I'm not really a huge Amazon buyer. I don't regularly order stuff on Amazon like other people. I just don't really need much on there, so I don't really use it too much. But I have been using it to order books because, one, they come the fastest, two, they're pretty cheap, and you get the free shipping. So I think I'm going to order the ACOTAR series this weekend, because my Prime trial is up in like a week. And since I'm already going to be on the the 6th book by next week, I think that that's a good time to order this series. So I'm going to make the commitment to read the A Court of Thorns and Roses, and then the 4 books after that, and then I will be all ready to read the most recent book that's coming out. I don't know how much time has passed since the last book was released, and I actually thought that was the last book in the series in general, because that is the longest book, and she did the same thing for Throne of Glass. And actually the ACOTAR series is supposed to be turned into a Hulu series, but that's probably not gonna be for quite a long time, because it's probably not gonna be for another couple of years at least. Because who knows if she's gonna write any more books after she releases the this book that's just coming out. So that is everything when it comes to Sarah J. Maas. As far as her 3rd series goes, I'm not going to read that until probably way into the year, but there are like 2 more series on my list that I would like to read. But I'll talk about those later on, because after I finish the ACOTAR series, then I really would like to read some standalone books, and then after I finish the ACOTAR series, that means I will have read 14 books in 2024. So that's already like a third of, or more, like 2/3 of my reading goal. So I do have a few standalones on my list. The first one is called Yellowface. Oh, and also before I move on to tell you about Yellowface, I just wanted to say that a lot of people are actually reading Sarah J. Maas's series right now, and I feel like fantasy books by female authors really, really made a comeback in 2023. Like, everybody was obsessed with Fourth Wing. A lot of people started to and talked about the ACOTAR series last year, of people that I watch regularly, like Kathleen Lights loved the ACOTAR series, and she read Fourth Wing, and the same thing with Batty Bean. I mean, Batty Bean was really the reason why I got back into reading. She really did inspire me just to start reading again. And I'm just so, it's all I ever want to do is read. Like, when can I read again? When can I be home and read again? When can I get through work so I can just go home and read? Like, that's all I ever want to do. So, anyway, and also I found out that me and Batty Bean are actually reading the Throne of Glass series at the same time. And I actually just found her on Goodreads, so now I can see, like, what she's currently reading. But the way that she reads is a little bit different than me, which is, obviously everybody has their own way of reading a series, or reading what order they want to read books in general, but she isn't reading like the entire series in its entirety. She's reading like other books right now, but she has finished Crown of Midnight. I don't know if she's reading Heir of Fire soon, but right now she's reading The Hunger Games. But I did leave a comment on her video for her, I believe, her reading wrap up for December, saying like, oh, I'm currently reading the Throne of Glass series too. And she's like, yes, I just finished Crown of Midnight. And I was like, I just finished Crown of Midnight too. So it's just cool when like you're reading a book at the same time somebody else is, especially a series, because then you can just like fangirl together. And so is Angelica Niequist. She's actually reading the Throne of Glass series too. And she said that she wants to finish that in 2024. I don't know what book she's on currently, but she started it like last fall or something, and she wants to read it. And then she said she's going to start reading the ACOTAR series too. So it's just like a cool experience. Like, Batty Bean had already read all of the ACOTAR series in 2023, but I just am so excited to get to it. So then the next book, like I said, is called Yellowface. And the reason why I really do want to read this book at some point is, one, it did it did win the best fantasy book of 2023 on Goodreads, but the premise sounds so good. I'm just going to read the synopsises of these books to, give you guys a better feel of what it's about, because if I describe it, then it'll be forever. So it says, Athena Liu is a literary darling, and June Hayward is literally nobody. I love that explanation already. White lies when Athena dies in a freak accident. June steals her unpublished manuscript and publishes it as her own under the ambiguous name Juniper Song. Dark humor, but as evidence threatens June's stolen success, she will discover exactly how far she will go to keep what she thinks she deserves. Deadly consequences. What happens next is entirely everyone else's fault. With its totally immersive first-person voice, Yellowface grapples with questions of diversity, racism, and cultural appreciation. And we don't have to read the rest of that because it's just talking about like what version of the book it is and all that when it was published. But I think that sounds so fascinating. So I really do want to read that book very soon. And this book is available at Target. They still have it there. You don't know how many times I've visited the Target section, the book section in the past like 2 weeks. Like whenever I'm at Target, I'm like, should I buy these books now or not buy these books now? Because I know I'm fully intending on reading them at some point. But then again, it's like I also have to think about how much room I have on my bookshelf, because so far the whole top shelf has been taken up with the new books that I have, and then the bottom shelf has been taken up with the Sarah J. Maas series, so with Throne of Glass. So I do have to clean out the rest of the bottom, because that's the only place that the ACOTAR series is going to fit, and I have like a bunch of like music books that I used to use when I played the flute, because yes, I did play a musical instrument in high school, that I need to just get rid of so I can make more space for books. Okay, then the next one on my list is called The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and this is such a popular book, you guys. Like, it almost has like 3 million ratings on Goodreads. I was about to say Google Maps. But a lot of people give this book a 5-star rating. Like, it actually has the most 5-star ratings out of like any of the books that I'm describing. And I'm like dying to read this book because Batty Bean loved it. So I feel like I'm going to really like it too. There were a couple of books though that she read that I wasn't like as crazy about. It was mostly just The House Across the Lake. I think she liked that book more than I did, because initially I really didn't like that book that much. What do I want for liner? I could use this paler one. Oh my goodness, everything is falling. Do I want this color? It's like a pale pink. Let's do that. So I'm going to use Amethyst Hour by ColourPop. So this book, I'm very intrigued on reading this book. I've been seeing it at Target constantly. Does this even show up anymore? It kind of does. It says, aging and reclusive Hollywood movie icon Evelyn Hugo is finally ready to tell the truth about her glamorous and scandalous life. But when she chooses unknown magazine reporter Monique Grant for the job, no one is more astounded than Monique herself. Why her? Why now? Monique is not exactly on top of the world. Her husband has left her, and her professional life is going nowhere. Regardless of why Evelyn has selected her to write her biography, Monique is determined to use this opportunity to jumpstart her career. Summoned to Evelyn's luxurious apartment, Monique listens in fascination as the actress tells her story. From making her way to Los Angeles in the 1950s to her decision to leave show business in the 80s, and of course the 7 husbands along the way, Evelyn unspools a tale of ruthless ambition, unexpected friendship, and a great forbidden love. Monique begins to feel a very real connection to the legendary star, but as Evelyn's story nears its conclusion, it becomes clear that her life intersects with Monique's own in tragic and irreversible ways. So it just sounds like such a fascinating book to me. So I really would like to read that book as well. I also like kind of go on, Batty Bean's recommendations, because honestly, her book recommendation videos are so good that and I feel like I said, we like a lot of the same similar books that I'm like, I really want to read these books too. And then I did add just 2 thrillers to my list. I would like to add maybe a couple of more. So before I talk about these 2, I just wanted to say, if you guys have any good thriller recommendations, nothing horror. I'm not a horror reader. I do not like horror books. But if there's something that kind of gives me a little bit of creepy feeling, I'm all about it. So if you guys have any good thrillers to recommend to me, please let me know in the comments, because I only put 2 on my list, but I would like to read more thrillers. I just have absolutely loved reading them. So yeah, let me know. So yeah, the next one is called, this is the first thriller, which is called A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. And this book is probably the youngest kind of book that I want to read, because it is I think it's the only YA book on my reading list. And also Batty Bean did recommend this book as well, but also this book is really inexpensive. It's only $9 at Target, and I'm like, okay. I already put the wrong color on my crease brush, so I'm just going to use my other brush because I already forgot. Oopsie. Oopsie poopsies. So this one's called A Girl's Guide to Murder. And I'll read the premise in a minute. I just need to get a bit of a move on with my makeup, but my boyfriend hasn't answered me since 12:30, so I don't know what he's doing, but I did tell him I was gonna leave pretty soon, but now I'm all I have to do is pick up food and then go to him. So this one, she actually said that this is the highest rated book because it actually is a series. There's 3 books in total, but most people said that this is the best book in the series, and I'm all about it. I really want to read this book too, and I'll read it in a second. I just want to fix up my eyeshadow. So it says, this case is closed. 5 years ago, schoolgirl Andy Bell was murdered by Sal Singe. The police know he did it. It's already intriguing me. Everyone in town knows he did it, but having grown up in the same small town that was consumed by the murder, Pippa Fitz Ambobi, that is some name, Pippa, isn't so sure. When she chooses the case, when she chooses the case as the topic for her final year project, she starts to uncover secrets that someone in town desperately wants to stay hidden. And if the real killer is still out there, how far will they go to keep Pip from the truth? So it just sounds so intriguing. So I really want to read that book at some point. I'm literally dropping everything, but what else is new? Okay, and then the next book that I added was another Riley Sager book. And I know a lot of people have very mixed feelings about Riley Sager, so one, don't come for me, but also this is actually considered one of his best books. It's one of his highest rated books. I think the other one is Home Before Dark is one of his highest rated books, but Middle of the Night has almost a 4.5. So that's why I decided to add this one, because I was so into The Only One Left that I kind of want to give one of his other books another chance. I'm probably going to have to order this one though, because like I said, the only two books of his that are available at Target is The House Across the Lake and The Only One Left. And guess which one is not there anymore? Guess which one sold out? The Only One Left. I mean, Target only really gets 5 or 6 copies of books, but the house across the lake is still there. So that should just tell you something. So this one says, in the latest blah, 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 a man must contend with the long ago disappearance of his childhood best friend and the dark secrets lurking just beyond the safe confines of his picture-perfect neighborhood. The worst thing to ever happen on Hemlock Circle occurred in Ethan Marsh's backyard. One July night, 10-year-old Ethan and his best friend and neighbor Billy fell asleep in a tent set up on a manicured lawn in a quiet, quaint New Jersey cul-de-sac. In the morning, Ethan woke up alone. During the night, someone had sliced the tent open with a knife and taken Billy. He was never seen again. 30 years later, Ethan has reluctantly returned to his childhood home. Plagued by bad dreams and insomnia, he begins to notice strange things happening in the middle of the night. Someone seems to be roaming the cul-de-sac at odd hours, and signs of Billy's presence keeps appearing in Ethan's backyard. Is someone playing a cruel prank, or has Billy, long to be dead, somehow returned to Hemlock Circle? I'm not going to read the rest of this because it's pretty long, but that's basically what it's about, and I'm all for it. I think that sounds like a very intriguing premise, so we are going to read that. There's not that many books left on here that I'm like super prioritizing, but obviously I had to add a romance novel to the mix, and this is the only romance novel that is actually on my list. So again, if you guys have any recommendations, please let me know. But the next romance book that I have on my list is a novel love story by Ashley Poston. And the reason why this one is on my list is because I read both of Ashley Poston's books. That's what it looks like. I don't know why my dogs are barking right now. I'm sorry. I don't know what the hell they're barking at. My mom isn't even home, so I don't know what the hell they're barking at. So this is actually Ashley Poston's next book that is coming out. It's not even out yet. I believe it comes out in May, I think. But since I like absolutely fell in love with the Dead Romantics, I am so excited to read this book. And I will read the premise in a second. I just want to finish my eyes because I do have to finish my makeup pretty soon. I didn't think I was gonna talk this long, but there's a lot of information in these videos and I'm getting a little bit hungry. So I would like to leave soon, hopefully in the next like 20 minutes or so. That looks so pretty. Oh my god, I love that shade. So I put this shade Rich from the Rich Romantic palette on my inner corners, and I'm obsessed. That's just, Gleminatrix shadows are just so sparkly. I love them. Okay, so this one says, a professor of literature finds himself caught up in a work of fiction, literally. From the New York Times bestselling author, oh, we don't need to talk about that. But she did top the New York Times bestseller list for both of these books, and I just loved them so much, so that's why I can't wait to read her next one. So it says, Eileen Merriweather knows a thing or two about romance. As a professor of literature, she teaches prestigious courses on history's greatest romantics, but 1 week out of the year, she abandons her dusty textbooks and makes a pilgrimage to the Hudson Valley with her best friend Prue to meet their super smutty book club in person. That's really funny. And celebrate the romance series that brought them together. Quitoxic Falls, okay? It's a week of wine and happily ever afters. Or it's supposed to be. Prue bails at the last minute and Etsy winds up lost in Hudson Valley alone in a thunderstorm. When she takes shelter in a bookstore, of course it's a bookstore, she immediately gets on the bad side of its grumpy and infuriatingly sexy owner, okay? And finds herself in a quaint town that feels like it's right out of a book because it is. Oh, that's so cute. I love like her fantasy elements of her romance novels. That's why I'm like loving her books, because I love fantasy romance. Um Ellerton can't be real, and yet she's here. The town is everything she imagined from her favorite series, where the candy store's honey taffy is always sweet and the local bar's burgers are always a little burnt. So that's just it just sounds like such a super cute story. I really love her writing, so I think I'm going to thoroughly enjoy it, and I really just cannot wait to read her next book, because really I have been loving her writing style. So I'm definitely going to read that. We don't need to go more into the synopsis, because again, we'll just be here forever. So I just used my ColourPop bronzer. I think that looks okay. I think I'm just going to pop into my Blend Bunny palette and just take... I'm just too lazy to grab other products. I'm just going to take the pink that's in here. This icy pink shade. I don't know why they won't stop barking today. Okay, and then the last series that's on my list that I'm going to definitely prioritize in 2024. And it's not as long as like the Sarah J. Maas's series, but the last series that I want to read this year is the Kingdom of the Wicked series, because I actually didn't even know about this book series until Baddie Bean had mentioned it, and she actually mentioned the, like, it's not really a sequel, but kind of more, I don't think it's a prequel either. I think it's just like a standalone book about one of the characters in Kingdom of the Wicked, and she said that she absolutely loved it. She loved it more than the actual Kingdom of the Wicked series, but you have to read the Kingdom of the Wicked series first before you read Throne of the Fallen. So the first book is called Kingdom of the Wicked, the second book is called Kingdom of the Cursed, and then the third is called Kingdom of the Feared. I actually don't even know what the premise is about, but I just really wanted to read it because they're pretty highly rated books. They almost have 4 out of 5, and some of them have higher ratings than others, but they're pretty decently rated. I think I am just going to use my Blend Bunny highlighter, because I don't think I've actually used the pink highlighter this year yet. So I'm just going to use that because, I'm just too lazy to get up. So this one says, okay. It's kind of already like murder mystery. 2 sisters, 1 brutal murder. A quest for vengeance that will unleash hell itself, and an intoxicating romance. Emilia and her twin sister, Victoria, what the hell, I don't even know what that word means. Are Strag? How the hell do you pronounce that word? Hey Siri. What does Strag mean? No. I'm just gonna look it up on... I don't even... Is the root form of witchcraft, originating in Southern Europe, but also includes Italian-American witchcraft. It's pronounced Stragria, or Stagria. Oh my god, I'm gonna say that word like 5 million times, but that's not a word I've never heard that word before. So, witches who live secretly among humans, avoiding notice and persecution. Okay, that already sounds amazing. I'm not going to read anymore because that's basically what it's about. So, and then probably the next 2 books are... It's actually the same synopsis. Oh, well, not really, but... Yeah, it's kind of the same synopsis for each. Yeah. So I guess they don't want to give away like any spoilers. But the third book has a little bit different of a synopsis. So I'll read that really quick. And then I'll just, after these books, these are the books that I'm prioritizing in 2024. And then after I finish all of these, then I will decide what to read after that. But these are the books that are mainly on my list that I would like to read. So that's like over 20 books. So I think that's pretty good. I mean, I've already read 3 books out of the 20. So then I just added a couple of more books after I finished a couple. Because I don't want to overwhelm myself, you know? I want to read at the pace that I'm comfortable with. So I just want to read the premise of this one and Throne of the Fallen, and then we'll just wrap it up because this video is going to be really long. I really didn't think this video was going to be this long, but it's okay. All right, I think that looks pretty. Yeah. I think it's just because a bunch of planes are flying overhead today, so I think that's what they're barking at, but they literally won't stop barking. Okay, so Amelia is reeling from shocking discovery that her twin sister Victoria is alive. But before she faces the demons of her past, Amelia yearns to claim her king, the seductive Prince of Wrath, in the flesh. Amelia doesn't simply desire his body. She wants his heart and soul, but that's something the enigmatic demon can't promise her. When a high-ranking member of House Greed is assassinated, Amelia and Wrath are drawn to the rival demon court. So basically that's what it's about, and it just sounds amazing. So I'm really excited to read that too. And then the Throne of the Fallen book is about the Prince of Envy. So it says sinner, villain. It's basically, I guess, about the 7 deadly sins, I guess. I think that's what Batty Bean said after she finished it. It says the Prince of Envy has never claimed to be a saint, but when a cryptic note arrives signaling the beginning of a deadly game, he knows it will take more than a hint of sin to win and save his falling court, his demon court. Riddles, hexes, objects, anonymous players, nothing will stand in his way, though none of his meticulous plans prepare him for her, the frustrating artist who ignites his sin like no other, vicious, darling liar. The trouble with scoundrels and blackguards is that they haven't a modicum of honor, a fact that Miss Camelia Antonius learns after one desperate mistake allows Waverly Green's most notorious rake to blackmail her. So that's basically what it's about. And it just sounds super intriguing, so I definitely want to read that as well. And then the last couple of books that are on here is another fantasy series and then an older series that was a worldwide phenomenon, but I actually had never read it. I'm not talking about Twilight. I'm talking about The Hunger Games. I think I'm finally going to commit to reading the books. I actually have the first book on my shelf because I do want to get to that series at some point. And we actually own the other 2 because my mom and I believe my brother read them, but I never did because that was like at a point where I, again, was not really into books. And I only recently just got more into books the past few months. But I kind of really want to read it. And what's funny too is that also Batty Bean is currently reading it as well. But it's been on my shelf for like 2 months at this point, just not being read. And then the other book that I have that I probably will read later this year is called Good Omens. And that was actually a full like Amazon series, and my boyfriend actually lent me the book because he actually really wants me to read it. So I probably will read that at some point too. I'm probably going to have to put on a white liner because that Amethyst Hour is kind of like completely dried out. Okay, and then let's just talk about this last series real quick, which is called the Shadowbound Queen series. And this is actually like a trending series on Goodreads the past month. And there's 4 books, which is called Court of Ravens and Ruin, then Greed and Gold, Monsters and Malice, and Serpents and Secrets. I didn't even read the premise, but I just added it. I don't know if I'm going to end up getting to this. I feel like it's probably similar to the Kingdom of the Wicked series, but also this author does a lot of like fantasy series relating to Greek and Roman mythology. And if you guys didn't know, I love Greek and Roman mythology. It just fascinates me. I really do want to read a series that's based on like Olympians and Greek and Roman gods. I would love that. So this one says, I'm just going to read the premise of the first book. I'm not going to read any of the other ones. It says, a defiant human woman, a dark fae prince, two enemies bound to marriage that could destroy their world. Rhaena was born a valuable slave to the Gold Court, imprisoned her whole life in a glittering palace by sadistic, greedy fae. And I'm actually reading about fae in the Throne of Glass series. When the palace is raided, she takes her opportunity to escape, but the raid is led by her worst nightmare, the prince of the most feared fae of all, the Shadow Court. Kind of sounds similar to the Kingdom of the Wicked. And he wants one thing, her, the copper-haired, rune-marked human. Rhaena doesn't know why the prince has kidnapped her, but when he announces her as his betrothed, she knows that she must escape before she is eternally bound to the monster behind the mask. Okay, that sounds really interesting, so we will see if I get to that. The Hunger Games has 8 million ratings. That's crazy. But yeah, I think I do want to read The Hunger Games. So that is definitely a priority for me this year as well. And the books aren't that long, so they're not going to take me that long. But yeah, those are all the books that I want to read. So let me just do my lips really quick. And this is so funny, this story. So this is the MAC Patrick Star lipstick in the shade She Better Work. And I have not been able to find this lipstick for like the longest time. I was like, what happened to it? It's like one of my favorite frosty pink lipsticks that I own. I was like, what the fuck happened to it? Guess where it was? I mean, you would think it would just be on like the bottom of one of my purses, because the only like makeup product I bring with me like on the go, like if I'm working or if I'm going out with friends, is a lipstick. And I usually have like several lipsticks in my bags that I like don't take out, because you know that's how every girl is. Like they definitely have like that one lipstick that's just like sitting in their bag. This wasn't in any of my purses. It wasn't in like the back of like my storage or anything like that. No, guess where it was? On the floor behind my paint night paintings, behind my door. And the only reason why I found it yesterday, this is kind of crazy. It's almost like this was destined to happen. It's kind of weird that I ended up stumbling upon it just because of this, but I dropped my earring that I was putting in yesterday in the, like, when I was looking in that mirror. And guess where it fell? Right behind the paintings where the lipstick was. And I'm like, what? I was like, that's so weird. I mean, at first I was pissed that I dropped my earring, but then I found it and I was like, what? So after like God knows how long it's been back there, maybe I dropped it once and just it rolled back there somehow and I never picked it up. So I found it. So it's just such a pretty frosty pink. All right, let's wrap up this video. Okay, you guys, so this is the finished look. Do I want to put on more liner? Because here it is. Maybe I should just scrape off the top, because usually I'll just break off like the top of the ColourPop liners and then just use like what's underneath. So I guess I'm just gonna do that. I don't know why my boyfriend hasn't answered me back. I mean, I guess he fell asleep a while ago, but he stopped answering me at like 12, so I don't know what is going on. Like, I did tell him I was going to leave at 3. It's now like almost 3:30, but... Alright, so anyway, this is what the look looks like. Here are the eyes, as I'm twitching, the cheeks, and the lips. I guess I should have used other cheek products, but again, I was just too lazy, and I just love these ones from Blend Bunny. So yeah, please let me know the books that you are intending to read in 2024. I would love to know, have you read any of the books that are on my list? Minus a novel love story, because obviously no one's read that yet because it's not out yet, but yeah, I'm just so excited to see how many books I can get through this year, and the fact that I've already read 3 books in January is just mind-blowing to me. I didn't even start really reading as much until like November and December last year, and now it's like, I don't know why I wasted so much time. So yeah, I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. So please like and subscribe. Follow me on my Instagram at CBW819 and check my Poshmark at the same handle, and I will talk to you guys later. And yeah, please let me know. And also, I wasn't going to talk about the synopsis of the Hunger Games, because if you haven't really heard of the Hunger Games, you're kind of living under a rock in the book community. Like, pretty much everybody knows about the Hunger Games. So yeah, I didn't really have to talk about that. And there are like 4 movies, so... And I think I want to read them before I watch the prequel film, because I actually didn't get to see that in theaters. And this is actually the first video that I'm filming with my new nails. So I love these nails. I think they're so much fun. So yeah, that's it. Bye. I hope you have a great day. Bye. Okay, before I go, even though I already said bye, I forgot to tell you what's actually on my face today. Sorry, there's like a bunch of lipstick on my glass. My mom hates when I do that. I really need to use more straws, but I can't be bothered. When it comes to water, I like drinking it that way. Mostly every other liquid, I like using a straw, but water, I like using the glass. But whatever. So like I said, I went into the Rich Romantic palette by Glaminatrix, and I just used one shade from the Nearly Natural palette. So I went in with Admire in the crease, along here, and then for the defining shade, I just used like the darker blushy tone in here, which is called Untouched. So I just used that. Like I said, I did use this palette fully a couple of days ago, but I really love using it coincidingly with the Rich Romantic palette. And then for the outer corners, I took this brown, which is Passion. And then for the lid, like I said, I went into Captivating, and I just put that all over the lid, and it's so stunning. And then for the brow bone, I went in with Intoxicating, which is such a good brow bone shade for me. And then for the inner corners, I just went in with Rich, which is such a beautiful, like, super sparkly, icy pink shade. So yeah, that's what I used from both palettes. And then for my waterline, I used Amethyst Hour from ColourPop. I wanted to use something other than brown today, so I wanted to go in with this one. It's like kind of a frosty, pinky, purpley lavender shade. It's so pretty. And then for my mascara, I just went in with the Essence Lash Primer, of course, and then I used the Tower 28 mascara. Sorry, I'm a little bit out of breath because I've been talking for a while. And then I used the Lash Discovery by Maybelline on the bottom lashes. And then I primed my face with the Do It Spray and the Say Star Glow Super Gel Primer. I'm almost done with this. I have like a tiny bit left, so I'm just trying to use that up. And then I think that I might get rid of this because it's pretty much done. So I'm happy I finally used up a tinted moisturizer. This was like my absolute favorite. I love this one. This is the Tower 28 Sunny Days Broad Spectrum SPF 30 Tinted Sunscreen in the shade 05 Fairfax, which is the lightest shade. And then I just used the coinciding concealer. I actually watched Dustin Daly's video yesterday about Michaela kissing Kosas' ass. And basically they were reading like a bunch of reviews on the Kosas concealer, and somebody made a comparison to the Kosas concealer and this one. And they said, if you want a great hydrating everyday concealer, go with the Tower 28. And I would say the same exact thing. Do not waste your money on Kosas. Their products are just, what the hell? Like, I just feel like there's going to be a lawsuit coming for them, like, because their products just don't last. But this concealer is amazing. I recommend Tower 28 over any products from Kosas. I almost pick up every single product that Tower 28 has to offer because 99% of the time I'm going to love them. Their products are fantastic. And then I went in with the Becca powder underneath my eyes, and then I set my face with the ColourPop powder. Of course, the Pretty Fresh one, and like I said, I used the ColourPop matte bronzer, and then like I said, I did use the Blend Bunny Cosmetics Bare Cheeks palette, and I used the pink that was in here. So this is the shade Baby Girl, which is this really beautiful like pinky shade. And then for my highlight, I'm getting hungry though. Like, I don't know what really I should be doing right now because I wanted to order the food and just leave because... And then for my highlight, I went into Butterflies, which is this really frosty pink one from the Forget Me Not palette. And like I said, I pretty much just used the highlighters out of here and the Brighter Days white shade. It's pretty much all I use out of this palette, but the highlighters are stunning in here, so I do use the highlighters quite a lot. And then I set my face with the Do It spray, and then I set my brows with the ColourPop Brow Blush Gel, and then like I said, for my lips, I went into the MAC Patrick Star Lip Base. So yeah, that's it. Bye!